Greetings and welcome back to another sort of special edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. Thanks for watching me. We're doing today the new releases for February 20th, 2023. And I say it's me. Why am I talking like I'm multiple people? um, Not like that's unheard of. Yeah, here to do the new releases for the week. And also, today was the record store day list of 2023 was released. And that's happening on Saturday, April 22nd. Mark your calendars. If you're in this area and you want to shop with us and support us, we open at 8 a.m. And I expect it will be hopefully a very good event. I feel the positive vibes this year because we've had 3 years of sort of like split up record store days, and I have not heard any word yet that they're going to be splitting this into two events, or three. While I did sort of like have a fondness for that in a way because I think it kind of got people the ability to sort of focus on like what they could spend financially and spread it out. This way, I guess it creates a little bit more of a manic sort of like they need to kind of like, do a big drop in one day and, kind of sort of it's like a big bloodletting, unfortunately. And it's going to be very stressful from the sense that with all of the added sort of excitement that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years with people discovering vinyl the way they have, it's probably going to be a lot to do in one day. But we're up for the challenge. I am. Whoever, I have a great team of volunteers that helps a lot, and so that's great too. And other people working in the vicinity. So thanks, we're excited about it. And yeah, so let's get to new releases really quickly and get that out of the way. It's a very small week again. It looked like it was going to be sort of bigger than it sort of turned out to be. And maybe that's a good thing because with the record store day list coming out, it sort of has the weight of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start saving some money for this. And well, please support the store for the next 2 months. I mean, that's the other thing is our buying power is totally based on what our income is and what we can afford. So if all of a sudden people just stop shopping, that's problematic. So if you want stuff, you need to support your stores. I've said that before, I'll say it again. You can't just shop on record store day and expect to get the things that you want. So, all right. At least not without paying a premium or sometimes going online for that stuff. So, all right, the big new release this week, I guess if there is a big one, is Pink's Trust Fall. And I have fond feelings for her because she's from this area, and I think she's incredibly talented. There's a lovely picture on the back. For somebody who kind of started as a little bit of a, I want to say, sort of trashy, like rock R&B singer. She was more of an R&B singer and became more of a rock singer along the way. This record is really cool in a way because she starts flirting a little more with electronic music too, and Americana, I think. She's kind of becoming sort of very comfortable in her own skin at this point that she can do about whatever she wants. And if you could listen back to her big album, Misunderstood, the second one in particular, she was kind of doing a lot of this stuff back then. They just weren't putting labels on it. But I think this is great because the first single, Never Gonna Not Dance Again, yeah, say that 5 times fast, was a pretty catchy song. I love the video. Her on the roller skates is great. And it's so Delco. I love watching it because it's very like sort of like this area. But anyway, that was a sort of a Max Martin produced song. And then the second single, Trust Fall, is a much more electronic song. It reminds me of like stuff Robin would do. And then she's got other people guesting on this album, the Lumineers, First Aid Kit, and Chris Stapleton. So she's going for sort of the Americana side too. So I gotta hand it to her. I think she's done an incredible job with this career so far. Whoever, if it's her, I mean, it can't just be management at this point. A lot of it is her as well. So, all right, the big Blue Note Classic series this week. We've got Jackie McLean's Blues Nick, and we've got Horace Parlan Quintet, Speaking My Piece. Um, Two great records, things that are you don't see every day coming out from Blue Note. They're not they're not like the ones that people talk about a lot, which makes them really cool because you can't find them very easily. The Jackie McLean has Freddie Hubbard and Kenny Drew as primary guest artists on there, and the Horace Parlan has the two Tarantines, Stanley and Tommy, and Stanley being very famous, obviously. So those are remastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio as usual. Another release that's new, Avi Tier. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Maybe it's AV Tier, but guy from Animal Collective. We just had a Panda Bear record a few months ago with Sonic Boom. That was a great album, very Brian Wilson-esque. I have not heard this yet, so I don't really know what to expect, but that's new. Joe Louis Walker, blues guy, keeps steadily releasing records. This one's just a sort of a nice picture of Joe. Weight of the World on limited green vinyl. The last song on it's called You Got Me Whipped. All right. Let's see. I don't know if I can show this. It's just a painting. This is Pretty Reckless, bone color vinyl, indie retail exclusive. Pretty Reckless, kind of like a popular rock band now. Cool thing about this is there's a couple of sort of guest appearances. Alan Johannes, Matt Cameron, and Mike Garson is on one track. You might know that name as David Bowie's piano guy. And also a couple acoustic versions of songs. And they do a cover of What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding, the Elvis Costello song that Nick Lowe wrote. But Elvis is apparently playing that song every night at the end of his show right now in his 10-night run in New York. So even though he didn't write it, it means a lot to him. All right, Flock of Seagulls. The first album gets a reissue on Translucent Orange. This is their debut. This record is iconic. It's probably, well, it is the biggest Flock of Seagulls album. They had other hits, but this is the one with Iran and Space Age Love Song, which is a great, I almost like that. Well, I probably like that better than Iran, actually. But it's great to see this out. You know, I could say, like, this album has sold so much. Do we need reissue of it? Well, there's still a lot of fans of this album and this song, and it's getting much harder to find used copies of that in stores. Like, I have one over there now, but I was thinking, like, Duran Duran's Rio, I don't know, George Michael's Faith, what else from that era? ABC's Lexicon of Love, Soft Cell's Nonstop Erotic Cabaret. Some of those albums are actually kind of getting more and more difficult to find in stores because people who are now like in those age groups, are hanging on to those records because records are back. They love those albums and they want to play them and they don't want to sell them. So I think that's when we need to have reissues of stuff like that. John Hyatt, there's actually, I think, at least 3 albums of his that are coming out this week. And this one is called Master of Disguise. It's the only one I have to show you right now, but the other ones will be around shortly. This was released on New West Records in 2005. And John Hyatt's a great singer-songwriter, produced by Jim Dickinson. Americana, I suppose, is what you would put him in, or just great cranky American singer songwriter. I don't know, but it's interesting how there are some singers that are much more popular than John, probably. But John has such an incredible, steady body of work and has written probably better songs than most of those people have. So, all right, a UK band, Curve. This is the Cherry EP. Features the song Cherry and also Clipped and Die Like a Dog and Galaxy. And then the Blindfold EP. It's the other one I have to show. And this one has 10 Little Girls, I Speak Your Every Word, Blindfold, and No Escape from Heaven. These were early EPs from Curve. Each one's limited to 1,000 on different colored vinyl. They're a great band who sort of were the template for Garbage that came along and was more popular, probably, well, for sure, in the 90s. But they were sort of like a little harder edged and a little darker, more shoegazy, more dreamy, sort of, but kind of more shoegaze, I suppose. But those are great. The Frozen EP is on the way, and apparently there's going to be reissues of Curve albums, full albums on vinyl this year. I don't know if it's all of them. I think it might just be the first couple, maybe. But anyway, for people who are looking for those CDs, I have that I don't have vinyl to show right now, but some are on the way anyway. Inhaler is the new CD from Bono of U2's son. Cuts and Bruises. I've been told it sort of sounds U2-esque, at least what I've heard also. And then Ron Sexsmith, great Canadian singer-songwriter. This is the Vivian line. He's adopting a little bit more of a Americana type look there too. And produced by Brad Jones. And it is available on vinyl. I just haven't seen one yet here, but if you want one, let me know. Marshall Crenshaw. It's a reissue of his sort of biggest album with the hit Someday, Someway. And it also has She Can't Dance. This actually features a bunch of bonus tracks. It came out on vinyl as part of Black Friday Record Store Day, so this is really just the CD component of that straggling in. And UFO. This is a live record. Werewolves of London. Cleopatra put this out, so they're the ones that are always there to put out a live record if you want one or need one. All right. So, and then next week is going to be a pretty big week because it's the new Gorillaz album, Cracker Island. There's also David Bowie, Hunky Dory, the sort of alternate versions of things on a single record. So they took tracks out of the box set, like highlights of the Hunky Dory box set, and put those on vinyl. I'm not sure when or if they'll press an entire box for Hunky Dory, but they probably should. But I don't know. I think at this point there's so many David Bowie box sets out there that they just want to complete the run and say like we've done box sets for all of his studio records. So new records next week from US Girls. Their new singles are great, kind of retro dancey, like more disco-y. Shame, which is a great post-punk band. Looking forward to that. The Neutral Milk Hotel box set, which supposedly contains everything that they've done recording-wise. And Iris Dement has a new record. It's been a long time for her. John Lee Hooker's Burnin', the reissue of that on Craft Recordings, and the Watt Stacks box set, which is sort of like the Isaac Hayes equivalent of Woodstock. So that's supposedly coming out. I think the CD box set might be much bigger than the vinyl one. But anyway. So, Record Store Day. Hopefully, many of you got the word today that the list was out and have looked at it or started looking at it. I've already had people that were submitting, like, hey, can you please order enough of this or that? So, because I'm interested in that. There are things that obviously we cannot reserve and that kind of situation, but I do want to say that, if you plan on shopping here, you might want to leave a comment or make sure that we see it, a message or an email or something to say, I'm interested in this or that. We get about usually a week to 10 days to get our orders in. It's not very much time when you're dealing with 400 to 500 things that you have to, kind of like correlate all of your orders on. But we'll do our best to kind of meet the demand. But, I don't really want just random submissions from the far reaches of the globe, because if you can't come in to get something, then you're doing a disservice to somebody else who might want to buy those things. And then they have to start searching for them and buying things online. And that's not fair to anybody. So if you have a definite desire to show up here and support us, and we appreciate that. But let us know if there's something that you're sort of looking for. So I just want to kind of like go through some of this list and highlight some things and it's a pretty big list, I realize that. But let me point out the things that sort of jump out to me. So the first thing is the 1975, which is the first thing on the list. That's live with orchestra, and it's them doing their big album, I Like It When You Sleep. So if you like the 1975, I think that's going to be highly sought after. Um, a Rouge Aftab, I think that's how you say that. She is a Grammy nominated artist from, I believe, Pakistan. Not really sure, but it's someplace Middle East, Far Eastern. And she uses a lot of like harp and things on her albums. And she only has, I think, a couple, but maybe just one. But it's very beautiful, kind of very entrancing music and sort of jazzy. So there's a live record for her that's coming out. Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes, the B-sides. Fantastic that they're doing this. I'm really excited about that. Someone pointed out earlier that there might be one song missing from it. I'm not really sure. I feel like most of it is represented, and those songs are as good as many of the songs that ended up on the actual Little Earthquakes album. So you might want to check that out, Tori Amos fans, because you'll be wanting those. Chet Baker's Chet, looks like that has been done by Craft Recordings, and that's a mono edition of that. And I think that even though that's been out as a audiophile record here and there and been reissued, I don't know if the mono one has. So it's probably one of those Kevin Gray coherent audio or something like that remasters. I see Bjork Fasora mixes, Frank Black live. Black Keys live at Beachland Tavern. That is the very first or one of the first Black Keys concerts. So it's from like 2000 or 2002. So Black Keys fans who like the older version that's a little more like bluesy and such, you might be interested in that. Hal Blaine's Psychedelic Percussion, that's one for the Wrecking Crew fans. That's, supposedly a very interesting record of lots of psychedelic kind of percussion, use of percussion. And speaking of percussion, Art Blakey, there's an unreleased album apparently called Live at Jazz Workshop. Um, Blitz Vega, that was kind of an interesting one. That features some of the members of the Smiths, not Morrissey. I believe it's Andy Rourke and Johnny Marr guests on it. So sometimes it's hard to tell what these things are until you click on them and read the descriptions. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, you really want to read a lot of this stuff. Blur, that is B-sides of their first three records. So you want Park Life B-sides. David Byrne, complete score from Catherine Wheel. And apparently, it was an edited version that came out a long time ago, back in the early '80s or late '70s, late '70s. Let's see, Canned Heat, Captain Beefheart, Alex Chilton. That's a reissue of his last album. Larry Coryell, he's kind of popular with the mid '70s, sort of jazz fusion kind of stuff. Let's see, James Cotton's Blues, The Cure Show. That's a big sort of live release from them. So, and I think it's on a picture disc though. I know they keep doing Cure on picture disc, which by the way, Wish is out on black vinyl, so you need to grab that before they're discontinued. You never know. There's a David J. Urban Urbane. He's a member of Love and Rockets. Dive. That's an acoustic live. Dio live in 1983 in Fresno. That should be popular with Dio fans. Old Dirty Bastard. Can I say that? A picture disc of 36 chambers, and that has been sort of very difficult to get now for a few years. So that's nice to see that back. Willie Dixon, I see. John Doe, I think that's acoustic covers. Eric Dolphy, Musical Prophet, that looks really good. That's from 1963. Has several other luminary guests, jazz guests on there. The Doors, three different records, and they're all 3-inch, so they're tiny, the size of the tiny thing on the wall there. So if you have a 3-inch player, that's good for you. Otherwise, I would skip it. The 3-inch records are kind of cool, but are they? I guess. Duran Duran Carnival Rio, that is like a collection of all of the night versions from the Rio and the early era of their albums. The Brian Eno is a instrumental version of his new record. It's very ambient. Bill Evans Treasures, that is a 3 or 4 record set. I believe they've been doing these Bill Evans releases, which are very good. And this is from the mid 60s, so it's sort of like one of his high points. If you're looking down the list with me, I'm on the Record Store Day site. Flock of Seagulls, and this is B-sides and single mixes from their stuff. We've got another Edgar Froese, Frou Frou EP, which if you like Imogen Heap, I would sort of look into that. Garbage, because there's 6 songs on there. Garbage, Witness to Your Love, that is a 4-track EP, and there's some cover song on there. I'm trying to remember what song they do. Let's see. Cities and Dust, which is Susie and the Banshees song. Generation X, there's Crispin Glover. There's a record with Crispin Glover and the 2 guys that did the Fishhead song, which I think one of them actually is Billy Mooney from Lost in Space, the TV show. So that could be very strange. Let's see. Gong. There's a Grateful Dead, which is live from 1977. Boston. Good era for them live. Let's see, a Groove Armada album. That one actually has a Brian Ferry song on it called Shameless, which is pretty good. Jerry Harrison, The Red and the Black. That's a great sort of Talking Heads side album for him. David Holmes, Ocean's 12. Let's see. The William Hooker is kind of interesting. He's a drummer with Thurston Moore on there. Ivy, the Apartment Life demos. There's a reissue of Apartment Life coming out soon, so I guess they chose to put the demos out separate. Here's a big one, Billy Joel live at the Great American. This is actually 1975, so prime, I believe it's Street Life Serenade era, Billy Joel. So it's a double LP. I think it's color vinyl too, so that should be big. Clark Kent, some people don't know who that is. That's Stuart Copeland of the Police, and that's an album that he did, or collection of songs from 1980. This is actually the first non-police sort of side project. Carole King legendary demos. This is like demos for Tapestry and stuff like that. London Grammar, that's their 10th anniversary of their debut, which was a really great album. Madness, some B-sides. Madonna, American Life Mix Show. That's kind of interesting. I don't really know exactly what the track list is on that yet, but it said something about being dedicated to Peter Rauhofer, who was a big remixer of hers. So they're all dance versions of songs from American Life, which was not arguably her most popular record. It had some good things on it, but the dance versions were popular in clubs, so that's probably why they're choosing that, because they're going to be probably getting deeper into the Madonna reissue campaign this year, with lots of bonus stuff coming. So be ready for that. The Magnetic Fields Eye, that's a really interesting record. Every song starts with the letter I, and that was came out right after. Well, not right after. It was a few years after the big '69 Love Songs box. I think it took. I think it took Stephen Merritt a little while to write some new music. MEB is the Miles Davis, members of his band after they sort of broke with Miles, and so there's some really good jazz players on there. Midlake is a new live record. Motley Crue, Helter Skelter is a four track picture EP. We have another Motorhead live, Murphy's Law. Nas live in 2002. So hopefully some Nas fans are wanting to get out and get that. I'm wondering if the Nana 99 Luft Balloons is going to do very well, considering all the balloon stuff that's been going on in the news and the memes about that. Stevie Nicks, Belladonna, live 1981. Looks like a really great show, and I think it was on the deluxe CD of that came out a while ago. I would say it's pretty cool also because not only does it have songs from that, but it has a couple Fleetwood Mac songs, Gold Dust Woman, Dreams, and Rhiannon. Wish it had Sarah, but and Gypsy hadn't been done yet. Let's see. There's a live Nico that actually it's from 1980. Features Femme Fatale as the closing song, and also has a couple other Velvet Underground things. Let's see. Ted Nugent, Our Lady Peace. That's a collection. Dolly Parton, early singles. Here's another big one, Pearl Jam, Give Way. It's a live record from the late 90s, around the time that Yield came out. They were going to release it at the time, apparently, and then pulled back from that. And it was probably because they released those millions of bootlegs. If you remember all of those little brown cardboard cover CDs, we had rows and rows of them in our store when we had CDs, and yeah. So Give Way, it's kind of a special live record. Orville Peck's Bronco on gold color vinyl. That actually has been kind of hard to get on vinyl lately. They haven't had a lot in stores. There's early Pogue stuff from Stiff Records. Prefab Sprouts, Steve McQueen, the acoustic record. That's probably I think that was out with the deluxe CD that came out, so it's nice that they're finally giving that to Americans on vinyl. Elvis Presley, Burning Love, those are rehearsals for his 1972 tour. Susie Quattro's Quattro, that's the album with Devilgate Drive. Ramones, Pleasant Dreams, those are sort of like different, it's a different reworking of the songs from that album that featured the KKK Took My Baby Away. Rich Kids, let's see, that is early members of Visage and people from Sex Pistols, kind of very pre Ultravox, and yeah, it's more new wavy stuff, kind of, but probably a little twitchier since you got a Sex Pistol in there. Keith Richards, vintage vinos, that's solo Keith stuff. The Max Roach is from the 70s. Rolling Stones Beggar's Banquet, it's another one of those expensive color records. I don't think there's too much different with it. Todd Rundgren's Wizard a True Star, so a reissue of that. The Selector live. The Amanda Shires features a guest spot from Jason Isbell, and she and Jason are ambassadors for Record Store Day. And it also features Maren Morris, so if you're interested in those people. The Sigur Rós is Kveker is, I don't know if that's how you say that right. That album is just like a sort of special reissue. It's been out of print for a while. And I sort of mark the beginning of our store here with that album because that had just come out about the time that we opened. So 10 years. Sisters of Mercy, Reptile House. That's a great EP, features Kiss the Carpet. That has been out of print since like 1983, I think. So, what's 40 years, right? Soul Asylum's MTV Unplugged. That's pretty cool. The specials, Work in Progress. Those are just a couple of tracks, really. There's a Ringo Starr. There are a couple Sonny Stitts on the list. Joe Strummer's Street Core, the 20th anniversary of that. Suicide, A Way of Life, the Rarities. That features a cover of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. It was done in 1988. I can only imagine what that sounds like. All right, so here's probably the biggest thing on this entire list. Taylor Swift, Folklore, the Long Pond Sessions. So Taylor, while she was recording Folklore, they had to do that in lockdown. And they didn't get to actually perform these songs together, at least 14 of them, until they got together in 2020 to do it. And that's what this is, the representation of that. And this is on a color vinyl. I believe it's like gray or something like that. And I hope that they're making a crap ton of them because I think it's going to be probably the biggest thing on Record Store Day. That's just my guess. Considering how many people came out for the 45 of the Lakes a couple years ago or last year, whenever that was, I think this is going to be big. So if you're Taylor fans, you better start thinking about that. All right. The Sword, Gods of the Earth, 15th anniversary. That's one of their great earlier records. Another live Tangerine Dream. They've got a lot of those. Mars Volta, Francis the Mute. That's a single EP, 2 tracks from that album. Tom Tom Club's expanded edition of their first record, which is cool. It's got the long version of Genius of Love on it. Ali Farka Touré, that's cool, sort of African guitar stuff. Travis, that's a recent live record. TV Mania, that is Nick Rhodes of Duran Duran and Warren Cucurullo of Missing Persons and Frank Zappa, who was in Duran Duran at the time. They co-wrote, well, Warren basically was one of the main writers on Ordinary World, but this was kind of a weird instrumental side project that they did in the late 90s. So check that out. The UFO is greatest hits kind of collection, I believe. There's a new jazz dispensary. Those are always popular. The Nuggets box set, 5 records, that I think that's going to be pretty sought after. There's another Sun Records collection, a TV greatest hits. They do these like every time now. Violent Femmes. I'm not sure what's different about that. It's a 40th anniversary collection. Scott Weiland's 12 Bar Blues, which was his first solo record, and that has a couple extra tracks on it. Wilco, this is like an alternate version of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and that's pretty cool. And that probably will be popular, I will think. You would think. Al Wilson as an old soul guy, The Wonder Years live record, and this one in the first group of records listed, yes, live at the Knoxville Civic Arena, and that is mostly like close to the Edge area, yes. So if that's your thing, be looking for that. I think it's a 3 record set. And then, oh, of course, there's the Doors 3-inch turntable to go along with with the records. And then there's these are some of the more quirky things. There's the Macho Man Randy Savage record, which I think might be really popular. I don't know. It's something that, you don't think about necessarily, but there's probably a lot of like fans out there. Noctorum is a church related record. Porcupine Tree, let's see, that is sort of rarities and stuff like that, kind of things off the beaten path. Terry Callier, so now I'm in the RSD first release. Just quickly to mention, because if you go to recordstoreday.com, which is sort of where I've been looking here, and you go down the list, they sort of Americans break them into different things. If you go to the British list, don't get confused. Theirs is more sort of like just organized alphabetically, and they will have records coming out there that we don't have here. So that's another thing that I think is confusing for a lot of people who don't really understand that. But so anyway, Terry Callier's Hidden Conversations. This is an album that features 3 tracks that he did with Massive Attack. One of them being the song Live With Me, which was a great song from their Greatest Hits album that came out around 2005 or something like that. So that might be of interest. The Allman Brothers, Syria Mosque, live in Pittsburgh in the early 70s. I had somebody tell me today that this has a really great version of In Memory of Elizabeth Reed on it. So you might want to look for that. A couple of jazz pieces here. Roy Ayers, I think that's sort of mislabeled as Slum Village. And Albert Eiler, Europe 1998. They'll probably fix that. There's a Chet Baker 1979 live. It's sort of getting later. Bastille MTV Unplugged. This is very cool. Beach House, EP of 5 songs that they recorded for Once Twice Melody that didn't make it to that album. That album already has 18 songs. So they had recorded at least 23 for it. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Live Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. Broken Social Scenes. You Forget It in People. 20th anniversary of that. That's a great record. Let's see. What else? I'm sorry. I'm sort of rambling. There's so much good stuff here. It's hard not to take a look and just soak it in. Cranberries, Wake Up and Smell the Coffee. That's an album that you probably won't see very often. Stephen Street produced that. Miles Davis, Turnaround, unreleased recordings from On the Corner. That's a really interesting record of his, very outside the box fusion type record. Dirty Projectors, Mount Wittenberg Orca. This actually features Bjork on a lot of it, and Bjork had her own Forsora remixes earlier on here, so she actually has 2 things coming out in America on Record Store Day. Donna's early singles, 1995 to 99. I've got friends who are going to love that. Fleetwood Mac's Albatross and Jigsaw Puzzle. That's a 12-inch EP. Foals in dub. The Jerry Garcia Band, How Sweet It Is. That's a live record from 1990 and from that tour. And that was a very popular CD when that came out. So, Haircut 100 live in Hammersmith, 1983. The great live band. I mean, people like to sort of joke about them, but they had a lot of like great sort of island vibes. And it's another one of those early British kind of cross cultural type bands. So, Hawkwind live in 77. Howlin' Wolf live. Husker Du early, sort of rare early material. Jason Isbell and his wife here again, Amanda Shires, with his EP, because they're both ambassadors. They each have a record. Jazz Artist Guild, Newport Rebels. This features Charles Mingus, Max Roach, Eric Dolphy. So it's sort of like a festival jazz recording. Let's see. Well, Jesus Jones, I would say live 1990. Well, it does have Right Here, Right Now on it. So if you want a live version of that, Joan Jett, up your alley, colored vinyl. That's got I Hate Myself for Loving You. That album is kind of hard to find now. So, Elton John, well, they're releasing Honky Chateau as a double record very shortly with a bunch of bonus material. So, for Record Store Day, we get Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player also as a double record. So, they keep going with the Elton. Nora Jones, Little Broken Hearts, live. So I was reading about this, and Nora recorded the album Little Broken Hearts like a decade ago. And she and Danger Mouse and some other people that worked on the record went to an area and recorded a live version of this album. So if you're a Nora fan, that looks really interesting. If you're an electronica fan, things like Juno Reactor, you know what that is. I mean, that's pretty cool. K Solo, if you're a hip hop fan and you like EPMD or something, that's pretty cool. BB King's Blues is King, great blues record. Another Kitty release. Well, John Lennon's Give Me Some Truth. It's a 10-inch vinyl box set. I don't know how expensive it's going to be, but they say they only made 500 of them, and I think the demand is going to be much higher. They're going to end up with another situation like Paul McCartney if they're not careful with the box sets. So let's see, Suede demos for their first record. Well, that's awesome. I'm a big Suede fan. Larry Lovestein. If you don't know what that is, that actually is Mac Miller, and it's sort of him in like a kind of a jazzy mode. So a lot of Mac Miller fans are gonna miss that record because they don't know what it is. So look for Larry Lovestein. Okay. Post Malone. That's a new single on 12-inch. His album came out this week. Paul McCartney's Red Rose Speedway. That's a big sort of probably well, it is half speed mastering. Ian McCullough of Echo and the Bunnymen. That's a great solo record. Slidling. Medeski, Martin, and Wood. It's a Jungle in here. That 30th anniversary of that. If you're like into jazz and the Beastie Boys and all that, you're gonna want that. Eddie Money, the covers. I feel like since Eddie's death, it behooves me to mention him because I know that they had some financial issues and would probably really appreciate people buying his records still to support the family. New Riders of the Purple Sage, that's alive at the Lyceum in 72. Phil Ox, Best of the Rest. Off, that's an EP from their new record of stuff they didn't use on the record. There's a Charlie Parker from like, oh gosh, the late 40s, I think. Pearl Jam, the CD, Peppa Pig. Gotta have your Peppa Pig. Pixies, Doolittle, the Doolittle album live. That's pretty cool. 2009, so it's from the reunion era. PM Dawn's The Bliss album. So I have to say a word about this. I loved this album so much when it came out. I loved Prince B, and a few years ago I was like, I gotta have that album, and I bought it from some seller who had an old copy that they weren't playing, and it was in great shape. So I do have an original, and then I see it because I thought, oh, they're never going to reissue PM Dawn, and here we are. And that album was a really popular record in the U.S. For those of you who do not remember who PM Dawn was, yes, it did have a duet with Boy George, but it also had here the big singles were well, it was Looking Through Patient Eyes, which had Kathy Dennis on it, of all people, if you remember her. But there was also a great cover of the Beatles' Norwegian Wood, and it ended with the incredible single I Die Without You, which is just a great song. And actually, I'm not sure that it was on the original album. It might have been added, but they say it's in the track listing. So, Poe, Hello. That's another great album from the 90s. They were kind of pushing her to be the next Alanis. And I saw her open for Depeche Mode. And she was awesome. And, uh, you know, we're getting Poe on vinyl. So, Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime 2, Prince Rakim, which is a RZA project, early RZA, The Residents, early 90s album. Let's see. The Rockfords, that has some people from Pearl Jam are involved in the Rockfords, so you might want to look at that if you don't know what that is. Then there's another RZA with Bobby Digital, Raphael Sadiq, which is great soul record. A lot of people who don't know that record need to check it out. And he's from Tony, obviously. Obviously. Uh, Interestingly, there is a Sir Douglas Quintet release, reissue, featuring Doug Somm. And then there is a Sun Volt Day of the Doug, which is a tribute to Doug Somm. So it's funny how they're both coming out for Record Store Day. Slum Village Trinity, if you like hip hop, it's a great early 2000s record. There are two Sparks releases. They're reissuing the first two albums, Sparks and A Woofer in Tweeter's Clothing, which that one was actually produced by Todd Rundgren. And I don't see the live record that was scheduled for Black Friday, along with the live record that Missing Persons was supposed to have out. But they are on the British list, so I don't know if they've just missed them. They're still on back order with my distributors, so they may actually be coming out at some point, but I don't know if it'll be Record Store Day or not. There's a Strawberry Alarm Clock reissue. As I mentioned, there's a couple Sunny Stits. Donna Summer, this is a live record from 1983. So she's already kind of moved on from the disco. There are some of the disco songs there, but it also features things like She Works Hard for the Money and things that she was doing with Quincy Jones, like Love is in Control and stuff like that. So, an era that doesn't get quite as much attention and probably should. Sun Ra, live at Haverford College, 1980. That's pretty interesting, and I think that that's been sort of bootlegged, but yeah, Sun Ra live at Haverford College, of all places. Let's see, there's a Supergrass, there's a Sun and Boris. T-Rex, that's an early collection. Taproot, if you like that record, that's being reissued. Coco Taylor, that's her first album for Alligator Records, very bluesy. The Temptations, All Directions, that's the album that features Papa Was a Rolling Stone. That's awesome that that's coming out. Frank Turner's Tape Deck Heart. U2, Two Hearts Beat as One. That's like an EP with old versions and new versions of that. And I can't remember what. There's another song on there too. Might be Sunday Bloody Sunday, but let's see. Under Oath. There's a album there. There's a Bossa Nova collection. Mike D's doing another Brazilian 45s collection. That's what he's been doing. Are these Mike D of the Beastie Boys has been doing Brazilian 45 box sets. So that's Interesting. Go do it. Surf in the Great Lakes. That's like cool surf music from the Great Lakes region. Verve Pipe Villains, that features their single The Freshman. We were just freshmen. That was a big hit. Muddy Waters, a couple of releases. There's a live Hollywood Blues Summit, and then Woodstock, which was apparently a Grammy winner from 1978 for like best blues record, whatever. And Warren Zevon's The Wind. Thank you. An incredible record that was much in need of reissuing. That is listed as well. So this is the initial list, the first day. I've talked for a long time, 50 minutes, just me. And you can tell my voice is giving out. I'm getting congested. I need to get some water. So I'm going to call this now. But thanks for watching. If you've watched it this far, I know that you could probably like look and read and all this stuff. I'm trying to distill this for you. So, you know, if you didn't know about certain things, maybe if I mentioned it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I need to check that out. So, thanks again for all the support, guys. Really appreciated it. And we'll be looking forward to you on Record Store Day, April 22nd. So, delve into the list a little bit more. Again, you know, send me a message or something if you're going to buy stuff from us. And so I at least have an idea of what I can order. I can't guarantee that we're going to get everything. A lot of times we get cut because they only have so many of these records to sell. And many of them sell out in the first hour. So it's, if you want it bad, you have to get here early. We've had people waiting the night before when I've left. So, but most people, it's usually a couple hours early. So anyway, I know that means like 5, 6 a.m. But all right, thanks for your support. Look forward to seeing you. I will be showing more of these records as they come in close to Record Store Day, so you'll actually get to see them. Probably not everything, but it's a big list. All right, thanks. And any changes that come up, let you know. Peace. Have a great weekend.